as usual, but we have a guest today and we want to make sure she has her time and that you have plenty of time to ask questions if you want. This is Kelly Miller, and I heard her speak at the League of Women Voters meeting at the Roseville Library last March, because Ann Haugen had told me that she was going to be there, since I'm interested in the indigenous cultures and whatnot. And she said, why don't you come and listen? So I did, and I thought, oh, she'd be a great person to speak at church here, since we all want to learn more, and how can we be better partners with our Indian neighbors. So anyway, I asked her if she would speak, and meanwhile, she's changed jobs just very recently, so now you're even broader or higher up in the administration or something. You can tell us even more. But anyway, we welcome you, and you can also introduce yourself and tell us about your work. But it's with the Interfaith people in the greater St. Paul area, and there are other Lutheran churches that have been supporting them, and we should learn to support them as well as other churches besides Lutheran churches. But anyway, you will tell us more.
Hello. Good morning, Mino Gijigan, Bonjour, Avitabi Gijin Gukwe, Indigenous, Magazi Indumdim, Mrs. Eigen, Indum Jaba, and then Maplewood, Dashina. So I just introduced myself. I said my Ojibwe name first. I'm part of the Magizi clan, so the Eagle clan, and my family and I are from Mille, and we own a home in Maplewood. My name is Kelly Miller. I am the newly appointed Chief Program Officer at Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul. I was formerly their Director of Department of Indian Work, was formerly their Emergency Services Manager, and was formerly an intern in the food shelf. So I've worked my way up in the last 10 years throughout my career at Interfaith Action. So I'm here to talk to you about Department of Indian Work, but I'm going to go over some brief history about our community and also talk about Interfaith Action as well. So, next slide. Let's see. It just was.
It's all new.
It was all working.
Well, I can, so at Department of Indian Work, our goal, our mission is that we partner with American Indian families to revitalize culture, education, and wellness. And we provide a safe place to empower American Indians towards self-determination while respecting cultural and spiritual diversity. So the background of this slide is also one of the colors of a shawl from one of our fancy shawl dancers that is a part of our American Indian Youth Enrichment Program as well. So I thought that was pretty neat to include. Let me try to advance it on here.
It might have worked if I hadn't walked into the room. I totally killed that now and yeah.
I think technology can be our best friend and our worst enemy.
Yeah.
And it's usually our worst enemy when we need it to be our best friend.
Whoops, almost.
Oh, think of we. There we go.
Oh.
Sorry, I think I just hit it.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Do you need to have this share the Zoom screen, or are you good on the Zoom?
That's the part I can't figure out. It's when I
just look
share
back
it to
and
Zoom that it.
That it
Stay there.
Let's try this.
oh yeah.
Is it, let's see, now, is it forwarding or no?
No. Oh yeah, well, forward's on your screen, but not on my screen. Let me see if I can click it on the screen. No, I think
Okay, we are gonna stop the share and we're just gonna go with.
Could you pick the Zoom to look at the presentation?
Yeah, I did.
I've tried it in 2 different places and then it's doing the same thing, so. Thought we had this working, we had it all tested last week.
Yeah, it's all brand new. I mean, we updated and whatever you update, you
Oh, big mistake.
All right, are you
No,
full? You're not full.
press play one more time at the very top, yeah. Okay. There we go.
No,
Give me 1 second, because my monitor went off. Okay, now my screen is back and it's working, so perfect. So our mission at Interfaith Action is to mobilize faith and spiritual communities to engage in work that supports our neighbors' economic stability and mobility. So our vision is opportunity grows and poverty recedes when people of faith invest themselves in effective action. So Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul was formerly St. Paul Council of Churches. You might be familiar with SPAC. It was on Summit Avenue. We sold our building in 2020, I think, 21. But in 2015 is when they rebranded and we became Interfaith Action of Greater St. Paul to encompass all of our faith communities that are part of our network. So I also have our values here. I can quickly read them if you would like, but we really, equity is one of our values. Faith compels us to remove barriers and to eliminate disparities in pursuit of justice. Interfaith relationships, so having authentic relationships with people of different faith, we believe weaves a stronger fabric of community that increases our effectiveness, responsibility. We all share a responsibility to act deeply, understanding of the daunting barriers, deep listening. A lot of our work is really from community and, with our community partners, our faith and civic leaders, and then connection. We believe that we are all connected and have obligations to each other. So Interfaith Action has 3 departments. These are 2 of them because Department of Indian Work is 1. So our biggest department that most faith communities know is our Project Home. And that is a family homeless shelter. It provides emergency shelter and rapid exit case management services. They used to be a mobile food shelter or mobile family homeless shelter. So they would be hosted at a different congregation every month for many years. And they served about 40 individuals and 40 people, however that encompasses of your family. And then they would go during the day. So at nighttime, they would, like if you guys hosted them here, it could be in this room set up with cots and, they'd have volunteers that'd be on site for them to be here overnight. And then they would go to the day center during the day. During COVID, of course, all of that changed. And during COVID, that's when the partnership with the Sisters of Carondelet at St. Joseph's and Ramsey County happened. So their old building that's on St. Kate's campus, where the nuns used to live, their rooms got turned into now a family homeless shelter. And we can house up to 100 individuals, different room sizes. We have all the services on site there. So there's no longer going from sleeping in one area to, the day center where they shower and, could do their resources or, their play or however else at the day center. It's all in one space. We are currently renting that facility from them. So Faithful Hospitalities is our newest program, and this provides mobile shelter to help our communities deal with increasing need. Faithful Hospitality is an initiative to help provide mobile shelter to families who are experiencing homelessness, but they are in partnership with Hennepin County for the asylum seeking families who are coming. So currently they are, again, a mobile shelter. So they're at a few different congregations every other month or every month. And then they have a day center down at Central Presbyterian Church in St. Paul. So that's where families go during the day to eat, get their ESL classes, get their employment training, and get the resources they need to place them into housing. So that's one program. Faithful Hospitalities is under Project Home. We also have Opportunity St. Paul, and this is the doorway for our congregations to be a part of our organization. Through our OSP Partner Connect, congregations and individuals live out their purpose through engagement with Project Home, DIW, and other nonprofit partners that have proven records of addressing causes and consequences of poverty. So We harness volunteers from faith communities and place them internally or externally. So there's different options. So maybe you're a retired teacher and you want to help kids read. Well, great. We have a partner called Reading Partners that we could connect you with, and then you could become a tutor to a first grader or kindergartner and help them increase their literacy. Or maybe you are a retired like employment coach. Well, we could connect you with Daily Work, and Daily Work provides those support services to provide people with jobs, right? So, or you just want to, hey, I just want to come help out, be on the ground, maybe go through your clothing closet, hang up clothes, or, you know, take people shopping. Great. We have a spot for that too at DIW. So, those are the 3 program areas. I'm going to get into more deeper about DIW. That's why DIW is not up here. So history, I always think it's important because some people don't know. So Minnesota is home to 11 federally recognized tribes, including large reservations and trust lands such as Red Lake, White Earth, and Leech Lake. Minnesota has one of the largest urban Native American populations with more than 35,000 American Indians living in the Twin Cities metro area. So, you know, the Relocation Act was in the early 1950s, and that was how DIW was originally formed when the, you know, the American Indians were encouraged and, you know, hey, come move off the reservation, come move off, you know, your lands and come to the city. We're gonna, you know, get you jobs and get you education and, you know, get you into society like a normal citizen, right? And all those promises were not kept. So a lot of the nonprofits in the metro area was formed to kind of help meet that increasing need. That's where we came into place. So poverty, in Ramsey County, there are approximately 10,000 American Indians. So either with a combination, they identify with one race or 2 races that live in the community, with 3,200 households headed by an American Indian. So my household, I'd be the head of household. I identify as American Indian. So does everyone else in my household. But so 30% of American Indian individuals that live in Ramsey County, they live below the poverty line, which is compared to 12% of the general population. 1 in 4 are on food stamps or WIC receiving assistance. 1 in 10 are homeowners. So if you line 10 of our community members up, 1 of us out of the 10 are homeowners. 22% of households with American Indian householders live in poverty compared to 8% of all other households. Unemployment rates are high for American Indians in Ramsey County, are significantly higher than the county average, contributing to financial instability. Housing insecurity is a critical issue, right? With a high percentage of American Indians households facing rent burdens, defined as spending more than 30% of their income on housing. I mean, that's kind of being house poor, right? Dave Ramsey says that's house poor if you spend more than 20% on your income on, you know, your living expenses. So according to recent census data, there are approximately 163 American Indians that live in Minnesota that make up around 2% of the state's population. So we're still a small percent of the population, but we continue to have the highest disparities. Health. So in Ramsey County, American Indians experience higher rates of health disparities, particularly in low birth rates, obesity. I kind of chuckle about that one because I'm obese. Diabetes, infant mortality, mental health, and then substance use disorders. I know a lot of our relatives are struggling with substance abuse, and a lot of tribal nations and urban American Indian communities see that struggle and are trying, you know, to help that. And it all touches us somehow. I have a sister who struggles with addiction, is currently incarcerated. And so, you know, when they say it really affects everyone in the family, it truly does. Education. So I just want to note that in 2022, the Minnesota Office of the Legislator Auditor, or OLA, released the program evaluation report on the Minnesota Department of Education's role in addressing the achievement gap for American Indian students. And it was not good. It was not pretty, right? And they admitted that they had no clear plan on how to address those disparities for education for American Indian students in the state of Minnesota. In 2023, the Minnesota legislature passed a lot of legislation, which is really beneficial and really helpful, that, you know, addresses curriculum, American Indian, you know, like being able to like wear your, not regalia, but like your stools, or, you know, your beaded caps, you know, no mascots. So they address some of those, but we have yet to see the results from that, that data. So graduation rates in 2023, only 53% of American Indian students graduated on time compared to the state average of 84%, chronic absenteeism. cultural relevance. So there is a growing need for culturally responsive curricula and support services. And MDE has compiled a letter with the law for outreach to the American Indian community. Feedback from Tribal Nations Education Committee indicates that MDE could improve and incorporate this feedback and actionable changes. And representation matters. I believe representation matters so much for our children, for our community members, and just for ourselves, right? To be able to see ourselves as an educator, to see ourselves succeeding. So there's definitely a role for more American Indian educators. There's a lot of great programs through MDE and through others, grant opportunities that help pay for, you know, people to go to school to become educators to help achieve or fill this gap. I also want to note that my children attend Roseville School District. We live in the part of Maplewood that's precinct 1 and 2. So we're in the Roseville School District. Yay, we love the Raiders. That was one of our deciding factors as well when we bought it. So we got to stay in our school district. And I sit on the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee at Roseville School District. So I see, you know, how great our school district is working to help our American Indian students. We have great staff, we have great, you know, teachers, great support, but there's still that need for more. And when I started in the district, my daughter was in kindergarten. So we started right when she's now 9. And I remember telling Curtis Johnson, hey, we don't get this right. You got 12 years to deal with me. My daughter is only in kindergarten and I am not going anywhere because I will be that voice and that advocate for my child at all parts of their life, right? And education is really important to us. So I believe that Roseville is doing a great job and trying to address these gaps. So, okay, make sure, there we go. So Department of Indian Work. So the history, DIW, which is a part of St. Paul Council of Churches Interfaith Action. So in 1952, the Twin Cities American Indian Ministries began in the fall of 1952 with emergency services, which is our biggest program. So in 1968, the Twin Cities Ministries became a part of the Minnesota Council of Churches as the Department of Indian Work. And this is where it kind of gets confusing. In 1973, the Minnesota Council of Churches decentralized its American Indian programs, and the St. Paul Department of Indian Work began operating as part of St. Paul under St. Paul Area Council of Churches. There is a division of Indian Works in Minneapolis. Again, we both were started in 1952 under the same model, same, you know, very similar programming. They were under the Greater Minneapolis Council of Churches, and we were under St. Paul Council of Churches. So the river divides us, right? East and west. So our focus is the East Metro, their focus is the West Metro. They are now, the only difference is now they are their own nonprofit entity. They separated from Greater Minneapolis Council of Churches years ago. So we have 4 program areas now. Our program areas have changed throughout the years, but our funding program, Emergency Services, was started in 1952, again, after the Relocation Act. We started Youth Enrichment next. Between 1952 and 1992, there were other programs that I'm not quite 100% sure of the history. I'm still learning and looking into that history, but some of it was parenting courses, and I find photos of a little red bus, and I'm like, hey, we had a little bus, how awesome, right? I mean, I just love it. And I'll explain more about that when we get in there, but why I just love the fact that we had a little bus. Our diabetes education program started in 1999, and then our newest program is our economic mobility hub that we have in partnership with the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center. So what we do, emergency services, we are an emergency food shelf, clothing closet, we provide holiday meals, we provide back to school resources, community resources, governmental resources, and assistance at the time of a funeral. When we were located on Summit Avenue, that used to be a church, right? So DIW was downstairs, it had a big hall, a full kitchen. Upstairs there where our big conference room was, used to be like their sanctuary. So we would allow funerals for our community members because some of our community members are not affiliated with the church. So when a person passes, we have certain traditional practices that we have that, you know, our families, I'm Ojibwe, so our families have to be buried within 3 days, and during the wake service, the body cannot be left. So it comes an overnight wake, and families can stay with the body, and, other traditions have different practices. Some of them have 3-day funerals or 3-day wakes, right? And so we were able to provide that safe for free to our community members to offer. Policies changed as, needs or things came up, like, oh, now we have to have a volunteer here or a staff member on site, which was manageable and it was doable. Currently, what we do is we partner with a couple churches, so we have a great relationship with New Life Presbyterian Church, and if their sanctuary is available, they will allow us to host funerals there for our community members that maybe need that space. So highlights, we were the very first super shelf food shelf in the state of Minnesota to be culturally specific to the American Indian community. Actually, the whole United States, because super shelf is only an initiative in Minnesota, but it's still cool to say, right? And what super shelf is? What is super shelf, you're wondering? So super shelf is an initiative between health partners, the USDA, the University of Minnesota Extension, Valley Outreach, and they came together and were like, hey, let's remodel the way food shelf services are delivered, because, if you think of a food shelf right now, are you guys thinking of like a room in a basement with just some canned foods on a shelf? Because that's what oftentimes I thought of, right? But let's rearrange it, let's remodel it, and it's all data driven. So when we became a super shelf, they came in and they took data with our community members of who used our food shelf, of what items they were grabbing, asking why they were taking this. They really looked at how our food, with the layout of it, what sections, categories. Let me tell you, I was the coordinator at the time. I had 19 categories. Okay, that is a lot of categories and a lot of selection. And it was often like, okay, so now the super shelf model is we have 6 categories, and you can come in, and instead of saying take 2 vegetable, 2 tomato sauce, or 2 fruits, it's we'll take 6 of whatever of this section you want, and they're all bunched together. So if you want to take 6 peas because your son is really into peas, great. If you want to take 6 applesauces because you want to make some homemade applesauce or do some cooking with it, awesome. Because that's the big thing. You choose your food. So when I started at DIW in the food shelf as an intern, we weren't allowing people to shop. I noticed, and I was just an intern, so I'm not going to say much and rattle a bunch of questions, and we just went with the flow. And their family would check in, we would shop for the family, and then we'd bring their bag out. But then I noticed that they would sit down at our lobby and go through the bag and then come back and, hey, I really don't want this vegetable soup. Can I get a different one? And it was like, well, why are we shopping for them when they should shop for themselves, right? Like that's a whole part of like dignity and, really making sure that this is a good experience. So that was the first thing I changed when I became the coordinator. Is everybody shops for themselves. And it was an adjustment. I had one intern with me, and I love her to death. She's our intake specialist, and she's been through every crazy change I wanted to make. So she was just like, okay, let's do it, right? Even if it was just her and I, because funds are limited. So we also have a food delivery. So after I also want to do this statistic as well. So in 2022, the Minnesota Food Shelf Client Survey, 7% of food shelf users reported to being Native American in Ramsey County. So in Ramsey County, the Native American population is only 1.8%. So again, the 1 in 4 who are utilizing food stamps or WIC are also utilizing food shelves and other resources to meet their food insecurity. And food insecurity is something you can't see, right? Like, it's oftentimes, it's okay, I'm okay. Like, someone else needs it worse than I do. Well, if you're skipping meals, or if you're not paying this bill because you're trying to buy groceries, or you're food insecure, and there are resources available to help you.
Kelly, can you repeat that statistic? You said the population of Ramsey County is a little less than 2% native, and what percentage are using?
7%.
7%.
7%. Yeah, and when we first participated, so when the Minnesota Food Shelf Client Survey first came out, it was administered through Super Shelf. And when our first year participating in it, because we weren't active in some of this stuff right before before I came along, like I couldn't find any of this data. And so when we started participating in it, it was neat to see the numbers, that how many percentage of American Indians utilize the food shelf statewide. I think our first one was like 5% reported to be statewide, right? But 8% were using our food shelf in St. Paul. And that was like, how does that, so it was kind of like, and then I had to have a data person like explain it to me, because, I track the data numbers. So it was really just interesting to see, like, we serve a lot of the American Indian community in Ramsey County, but that's our focus, right? That's our target area. So we also have a NAPS program, a nutritional assistance program for seniors. So it's like a commodity box, and it's seniors that are, you know, income eligible and age eligible. And we took this over for Second Harvest. So Second Harvest had their second site in Maplewood then they moved to the big one in Brooklyn Center. And that was their NAPS distribution site. So we're like, well, hey, you guys are closing it. How can we help? And so we took over their NAPS distribution site for like 130 to 150 seniors. Mind you, our first month of planning it, we had to do communications. We had so many test drives, so many people come through and like, oh, this is where I come, which is wonderful. And so now we have drive up style, and they come up and they get their box drive through style the second Monday of every month. And oftentimes we have a long line lined up all around to the road and down the road. We've only had the sheriff stop one time and ask, what are these cars doing? Which is really good because we've been doing it for over a year and a half. But when we took over that NAPS distribution, we also saw the need for seniors increase in our food shelf. And it was because they were coming in and being like, I'm here to pick up my NAPS box. And they're looking around like, this doesn't look like a food shelf. No, it doesn't. We look like a mini grocery store, right? When you walk into and that's the super shelf model. When you walk into a grocery store, the first thing you see is fresh produce. And so when you walk into our food shelf and you start to go shopping, that's the first thing you're going to be greeted with is the fresh produce of what's available in season. And then you get to choose your options from there as well. And then you get guided through the food shelf, the aisles, and it looks like a mini grocery store. It does not look like expired canned foods. And in fact, we don't even keep expired foods on our shelves. Our volunteers do a great job. We have a bonus rack that, you know, if it's dated like a month ago, okay, we'll put it on the bonus rack, but you can choose to take that. It's not going to be something or one of your choices you get off of the shelves. You know, there's a difference, right? Like, oh, this is can of vegetables still good, because it is. I mean, FDA just makes you put those dates on there. They're still good long after, right? But you're not going to find them on the shelf, right? So, that's, you know, the dignified experience. We also, so here's our numbers. So this, who do we serve? So we focus on the American Indian community. We've always focused on the American Indian community, but we've seen a 46% increase in our services need last year. So these are our numbers from fiscal year last year, but we've also seen an increase in our Hmong neighbors using our services, our Latino population, and now we're in Little Canada. So people are thinking, oh, why use our food shelf in Little Canada? Well, when we sold the building, we looked around of like, well, where should we move to? We want to ideally be somewhere in the East Metro because that's where the majority of our American Indian community resides, but we didn't really want to take over on someone else's territory, if that makes sense, right? So we looked and we're like, well, you know, then up in this area, there's not really a permanent food shelf. I mean, there's a few mobile stops, but again, this was during COVID when we sold our building and we're moving. So none of that was happening. And I tell you, we have a lot of neighbors from Little Canada, from Vadnais Heights, from that north end of Maplewood and Roseville that utilize our services because we're close, right? And yes.
Maybe you said this and I missed it, but where is the food shelf?
Yes, I did not say that. So yes, that's a great question. I did not say where we are. So we are located in Little Canada, right next to Big's Produce, Big's Produce on Centerville, or on Centerville Road. Yes, because I always get that's Little Canada Road. We're on Centerville Road, right next to Big's Produce unit. I think maybe you remember, I'm told it used to be an old furniture store, that building that we're in. Used to be a big old furniture store back in, do you know which building I'm talking about maybe? Yeah, so I think it used to be an old furniture store is what I'm told. And we have a warehouse, it's pretty big, a big food shelf.
Can you see it from the interstate? Or
When you're going on, not when you're going 694, that way when you're going 694 east, you can. So not when you go 694 west and you go 694
yeah,
east.
it's in that kind of corner
Yep,
of
it's
where
in-
35 and 694 meet
Yeah.
up, and it's in the southeast corner of that intersection, northwest corner of Little Canada.
Yes.
Yeah, of that side of Little Canada.
Yeah, so we are renting there. We are in year 3 now. We love it. And so these are our numbers, and these are unduplicated numbers. So these are only counting a family or a participant one time, only one time, no matter how many times they come. We can utilize our services once every 4 weeks with one emergency visit a year. We see families that come maybe once every 3 weeks, and I mean, if you need food and you're coming to us, we're gonna give you food. During COVID, we had different, rules that if you needed it, hey, come and get it. We used to be only enough food for 3 days. Now it's about enough food for like 5 to 7 days again. And each household is different. So if your household is 6, you're gonna receive more food than a household, right? And so last year we did just under 360,000 pounds of food. That is huge for us. When I started in 2015, we were only doing 64,000 pounds of food a year. And we easily distribute 30 to 35,000 pounds of food a month at our main food shelf. Our families, so we ask demographic information, we ask tribal information, just because we want to know, right? And it's just kind of like the native way, hey, where are you from, right? Like when you say, where are you from? It's, oh, which tribe are you from? So, our families come from 52 tribes across the United States and Canada. If you're unaware, there are 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States of America, with 11 of them in Minnesota. So for us to have 52, that they're affiliated with 52 tribes, that's pretty neat, right? I think one year it was like 74 or something like that, so it's pretty neat. Let me see here. Okay, good. So this is a picture of our staff and our team. That's our van. So we call it the Indigi van. I always joke around and say, if you see it, honk and wave. And if it's driving crazy, please call me. I was almost gonna make it a sticker made that if this car drives crazy, call Kelly with my work number on there. So we call that our Indigi van. We love it. And what I joke around about is like, we want a fleet, right? Like we want, that's our great delivery van that we bought during COVID with the Hunger Solutions grant, because people needed food. There was no option to get food, right? It was COVID, the buses were running at really reduced, it was social distancing. So we started home delivery, and it was a big hit with our community. And we didn't put any stipulations on it. We're like, oh, you have to be homebound or you have to be elder. No, we get it. I'm a mom of 2 kids, and believe me, there are days I do not want to take my kids to the store. Okay. So I mean, we understand, like, you don't have the gas, hey, that happens. Or the gas you have to use for work. Or okay, cool. Well, you will call us. We can do a delivery to you. And our amazing emergency services manager, Teresa, she's right here, she's amazing. She started a online ordering form so for during COVID, right? A lot of food shelves were just doing prepackaged boxes or prepackaged bags. And it was just, you know, how we were when I first started. And that really takes the choice out of it. So she was like, yeah, let's do an online ordering form. So she created like a Google Docs. And we put it online and people could submit their order. And then, yeah, it was more time consuming for our staff or our volunteers that we had, but you still got to choose your food, right? So, and we still do that now. So we encourage you to come in and shop your first time. And then if you want to do delivery, you can call it in, and then you can go through your choices. And it's maybe not as big of a choice list as it was during COVID, because we encourage you to come in because we want to see you, right? Like we want to visit with you. So we deliver within the city of St. Paul. This is our team right now, or some of our team members up here, Tanya, Teresa, Lasha, Tanya, Simone, me, Vicky, and then Julian. So Vicky, this lady right here, she's the one that's been with me since the very beginning and has gone through every crazy change I've ever done. And sometimes she's just like, oh, Kathy, what now? But it's all to, you know, really better our family's experience, right? Like, and better their, you know, because when someone's walking through your doors, they're not walking through your doors at their best, and they're not coming to you when, you know, they're coming to us when they need help. And I recognize the courage that it takes to even bring yourself and say, I need help with food, right? Like that's a huge thing to admit. And so why feel like we have to kick someone when they're down? And, you know, I often tell my team, like, I want to know how people's experiences are when they leave our food shelf, because I want to know how they feel. Like, right, do they feel welcome? Do they feel safe? Do they feel like, hey, I can, you know, this could be my trusted resource, right? Like, we say like, when someone checks in, are there any other resources you need? And they're like, no, I'm good. I just need help with food. I'm so thankful for food. But it's once you're shopping and you get to, you know, talk with families and, you know, really just like open up to them, is when they're like, yeah, I'm really struggling to pay rent right now. Or, you know, my electric is about to get cut off. And it's like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. We have some resources we can connect you to help you with that, right? Like we can help you apply if you need to apply for some assistance, or just, you know, connect you with those resources. So they have that, right? And that makes all the experience better. I do not like it when I have families come in that are like in tears because they've had a horrible experience at a neighboring food shop, right? We don't want to do that. So our diabetes education program started in 1992. We call it FEDS, or Family Education Diabetes Series. I know, we always joke around about the name, and one of the ladies who helped fund it is still a part of it. She's like in her late 80s, and we're like, man, why did you guys name it FEDS? Like, especially when the late 90s FEDS, and she's like, I know, but we wanted to encompass all families, you know, we wanted to make sure we provided that. And FEDS, that program started because there was a need in the community, because community members were starting to be diagnosed with diabetes. They didn't know much about it. They weren't learning much about it. All of a sudden that they were just in the hospital because their sugars were out of control, or they had to take a bunch of medicine or inject them. They really kind of didn't fully grasp that. So up came FEDS. So FEDS, we provide a free health check. So we partner with the University of Minnesota. So FEDS started in 1999, and the U of M started as our partner in 2000. And it's really great. So we have some graduate students, and we do health checks. So they come in and do their weights, their blood pressure, their A1C, and you know, even tracking that weekly or bi-weekly helps people be like, hey, my blood pressure has been up the last month. I should talk to my doctor. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, right? We have, I'm gonna do some photos. So we have some photos here. So this is the old BIW at Summit, that was on Summit. So we would have a big group of people gather, we would have presentations, you know, educational presentations. We do fun things that could be tied to diabetes education, pharmacists, you know, how to move your body, doctors. They just could really come in, feet care, right? Like, it encompasses a lot. And we'd have a youth section as well. So while the adults were here eating or doing their presentation, the youth would be with some of the grad students upstairs doing, you know, learning what they needed to learn, or just playing. And we do a lot of the healthy food. So now we have it we host at Department of Indian Work, and we partner with Dream of Wild Health. They have a great, you know, Dream of Wild Health is wonderful, and their chef is our chef now. And this was one of their bison bowls, and let me tell you, it was so good, right? And some of the food too that we cook at FEDS, we get from the food shelf. So, you know, that the food you get from the food shelf can be healthy. You know, it is healthy, and if you cook it this way, or this is how you can cook it to make it healthy, right? So it's pretty awesome. They, I should have put in the picture last Wednesday when I got to work, they had a little dessert with non-dairy whipped and fruits and a hint of maple syrup in it. It was so delicious. And it said on a post-it, "For Kelly, do not eat." And I was like, oh, they thought of me. It was really wonderful. So, this is some photos of our FEDS program. Simone Rendon is our diabetes coordinator. She's absolutely wonderful. She really, you know, understands the program, and she's not like, you know, an MD, doesn't have a degree. It's just lived experience, right? Her mom is diabetic, her sister's diabetic, right? Like, you know, and like, she works in the community. She helped to design some diabetes curriculum for other Native organizations when they started their nonprofits very early on, right? So we take it as a community approach, and rather than just that medical approach, right? So it's great. So our American Indian Youth Enrichment Program started in 1992. I'm going to say 92. I think it might have started a few years prior, but I can't find the documents. As we were moving, I found so many sign-up sheets from field trips they did, and they were dated like 92. So I'm just going to say 92. So we are an after-school and summer culturally specific program for American Indian students. We partner with St. Paul Public Schools, so we hold contracts with St. Paul Public Schools. So our after-school program is in partnership with Flipside, and we are at the American Indian Magnet School, so just one school right now. And we focus on youth grades kindergarten through 4th grade. And our summer program is in partnership with, we just moved underneath their immersion program. So we're under St. Paul Public Schools Department of Alternative Education or Extended Day Learning, their immersion program. So our summer school program is hosted at Adams for 5 weeks. And I open enroll my daughter in this program, both of my children. I have to, because we're out of district, so I have to open and make them apply and just pray that my kids get in, even though I'm the director of the program. I still have to follow, you know, how the process, and my kids love it. And, you know, it's really awesome because I know how great our programs are, right? I was their program director. I helped, you know, make these programs and hire the staff. So I can tell you all day how wonderful our program is, but to see it from a parent perspective was totally different, right? Like my daughter, we'd be waiting at the bus stop at like 6:30 in the morning, because yes, it's a 7:30 start time. So our bus stop was 6:30. And she'd be like, okay, mom, let's think, we're in art today, we're doing, you know, what animals live in the forest, so let's think of animals. And so, you know, we're talking about this, or she's telling me about a field trip. She even told me that, and it's so funny, they went on a field trip to Bruce Vento and they had their coolers and their teacher, Mr. D, stashed them in a bush. You know, so they could go hike the trail and then they'd come back and do lunch and they came back and their cooler was stolen. And they had all their lunches in it, and so, and then I heard it from his perspective, but then hearing it from hers was so funny. So I have had the teacher or our coordinator call me in a panic. Our cooler was stolen. I don't know what to do. That's all their lunches, 60 lunches, Kelly, our buses. And I was like, it's okay. What, I can order pizza. So like I ordered Domino's to meet the kids at the school so they could have lunch. And my daughter, when I picked her up, she's like, Mom, you'll never guess what? Our coolers got stolen, and we saw some guy loading them up in the van when we were leaving, and we tried to have Mr. D get off the bus, and he's like, I'm not going to ask this guy. Well, they're back. Like, are you kidding me? And she was like, but then we got pizza. I was like, oh, did you like the Domino's? And she stopped and she's like, how did you know it was Domino's? And I was like, oh, I just assumed Domino's because they're everywhere. She's like, yeah, I did. I had 3 pieces of cheese pizza. I was like, oh, well, good. But I almost gave myself, and I was like, you know, I'm like the program director. I'm the one that's ordered Domino's. But then hearing it from the teacher side, he was even funnier. He said he followed the tracks and he walked up and followed the cooler tracks. And then he saw, it was a homeless encampment that was, you know, eating the lunches, and he was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go and try to get it back, you know, if they need it, sure, but he was like, yeah, I'm one guy against like 16. Which makes sense, but like, you know, so hearing things like that from her perspective was just so awesome, and, you know, so I was really excited for my son to join, and he had a great time. So, we do Indigenous art, history, ceremony, literacy. We start every session off with smudging. So every program, the morning for our summer program, they all go outside and they smudge together. They line up like a circle, even in our after school program. So it's really great. We have authors that come in, educators, you know, guest speakers. We do field trips. Last year they went to Hokachata Tea down in Shakopee, which is really cool. You know, they did Minnehaha Falls, or Coldwater Springs is what it's formerly known as. So really, you know, field trips and cultural and curriculum that's relevant to us, right? And, you know, that's important to them. Yeah.
Can you describe what the smudging practice is?
Yeah, and I should always be prepared for this question because I get asked it often. I'm like, well, I don't know, we just smudge, right? So sage is one of our traditional medicines. It's used in ceremonies. It's used, you know, for many different purposes. Each person uses it differently. We use it as a, you know, like we burn it in a shell, and we're not really doing, but to start us off in a good way, right? So, you know, some people smudge. We smudge often at DIW. So if you come to DIW, that's not marijuana you're smelling, it's sage, right? Like we're burning sage or smudging just to start us off in a good day, or something stressful is happening, or, you know, tensions are high. It's just good to kind of refocus and, you know, smudge yourself off, or, you know, start meetings that way. So we start our youth programs off like that, so it can put our kids, you know, okay, we're gonna learn, like they're just coming out of school, it's a youth program, right? They can be rambunctious, right? So let's smudge, let's, you know, start, you know, our program in a good way, and let's start, you know, learning, right? Or start having fun while we're learning. But again, some people use it differently. I mean, they're used for ceremonies. I smudge my house down sometimes. I do it sometimes even when I'm watching a scary movie because I'm scared and keep everything away, right? But I only watch scary movies during the day. And when my husband knows, he's like, why are you even watching this? It's like, I don't know. I'm an adult. I feel like I should watch a scary movie. So, you know, just different practices. At home, my kids, we smudge our house down at least once a month. We, you know, just my son, if he's having a tough day, or my daughter, right? It's like, let's just, you know, clear the air. It also can be used as an air purifier too, as well, I'm told. And there's different medicines you can use as well. Sage is the most common. Some people do sweet gas, especially if women are on their moon, you know, some traditional, you know, practices. You should be handling some medicines while you're on your period or your moon. You know, some people use other medicines as well. So cedar, right, bare root, it's just kind of, wish I had a better answer for you guys. Yeah.
Is it a spiritual thing as well?
Yeah, yes, like yes, you can, if you go into ceremony and some ceremonies or some, tribes or some, tribal nations, they use it for different practices, right? So they very well could, yeah. Tobacco as well, it's another one. We have a bowl of tobacco right by our front door that we put out every morning and every night just to say our good morning prayers and our good evening prayers and, talk to Creator, right? So, yeah. I love when they make those bags, the bandolier bags. I think they're beautiful. We ordered those kits off of, I think, the Minnesota Historical
Kelly,
Society.
the very center button on that
Yeah.
thing is a pointer.
Oh, perfect. Right here,
There
these
you
bags right here, they're beautiful. And then this is just more of the kids outside. I think we had the Raptor Center there that day for the field trip. They came on site, which is really cool. So our economic mobility hub is our newest program. It's our baby and it's just wonderful. So our economic mobility hub is a partnership with the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center. We do this through an integrative service delivery model and family-centered coaching. So how this started, right? So we see multi-generations of families through our food shelf, right? Like we notice this need, and like if you need to use our food shelf for multi-generational, it's like oftentimes utilizing our services is like their monthly stop, right? So I go, you get paid, go to Target, do this, whatever. Oh, I gotta use the food shelf this week, however, which is great. We're really happy to be your trusted resource, but it's like, are we just a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, right? And how do we not be that Band-Aid no more, but we start to heal and and we break that cycle of poverty or generational poverty, right? So here came the hub, right? Social service delivery models that are traditional through the government kind of don't work for communities of color, and they really don't. So we looked into models across the United States and we found the ISD model, the Integrative Service Delivery Network, or ISD model. We reached out to MDC, which is a lead in ISD. And then we also got connected to family-centered coaching, and that is really coaching the whole family. And we got our team, like we created a design team, right? Like this is what our hub wants. This is what we want we want to have a better name for it, but right now it's just the hub, it's kind of sticky, right? So we focus on 4 areas for our participants' life. We focus on their health, work, and income supports, their career training and education, financial management and intergenerational wealth building, and then connection to community connections and cultural support. So we added that 4th one. The ISD model is usually just the top 3, right? So that's all what we focus on, right? So, and we have a family coach. We currently have 34 families that are participating in the hub that are receiving wraparound services. And I really like to emphasize, we're not case management, we're family coaching. So the family has to really be the driver and in the driver's seats in spearheading this work. So we're not going to do the work for you, like some of the traditional social service models do, right? Like really kind of, oh, you gotta do this, and it's just kind of shuffling the paper and, checking the boxes, and then you should be all better now. And it's like, well, that doesn't always work sometimes, right? So we do the family center coaching and we sit down and we work with our families and we create a 7th generation plan. So in our culture, I fully believe in planning 7 generations ahead. So there are 2 ways I've learned this. So the one way I've learned it is planning 7 generations ahead. So I'm not planning for my kids or my grandkids. I'm planning for great grandkids, right? And how are we going to leave the world, the planet? Like, how are we going to, set our family up for success then? I've also heard it as other 7 ways. So 7 generations, you have to look 3 generations back to look at like the histories, the traumas, like what has happened and what has contributed to that. The current generation you're in now, what can you do? And then 3 generations ahead is where you're planning. So both are really good models for that. One second, let me finish this thought. So we sit down and we create a 7th generation plan with each family, and it's goal setting. And it could be short-term goals, midterm, long-term, right? Like, what is it you need to do now in the short term? And how are we going to help you get there, right? Like, well, I really want to be an LPN and I'm just a CNA right now. Okay, that's a great goal. You want to be an LPN, you want to be a nurse. Let's get you to that goal, right? So what can we do to help you? So you CNA, you might be there, but now we need to get you here. So, okay, so let's get you enrolled in the courses that you need to have. Is it what's stopping you from doing it now on your own? Is it daycare? Is it finances? Is it cost? Is it transportation? And what can we do to help remove those barriers, right? So you can continue to meet that goal. And it could be something as, I don't have childcare for a couple night classes. Can we help pay a relative to watch your kids so you can go to those night classes, right? Like, how can we come and help? And so, that's like the model of the hub, and really checking it with families and really being that support. But again, they are in the driver's seat. We are not in the driver's seat. And some families, and we recognize that some families are not ready for this intensive work that they have to do. And that's okay, right? Like, if that's okay, we will meet you where you're at. And maybe this program isn't for you right now, but maybe one day it will be, right? Like, and then we can help you there. So yes, what was?
Oh,
Yeah, did you have a question?
yeah, my question is, where do you get all the people to lead, to do the teaching, leading, helping?
Yeah,
I mean, not where do you get them, but
Yeah.
it sounds like you have a huge staff of
Network.
people,
yeah.
or you wouldn't need it.
So, for this program or for the other programs? All of it in general. Great question. So the question was, where do we get, or how do we have all these people in our network to provide these services? So, our youth program, we partner with the schools, and we've been with the American Indian Magnet schools for many years. A lot of our educators, our teachers, you know, they grew up sending their kids to youth enrichment. So, you know, their educators, or, you know, we had one staff that I remember going to youth enrichment as a kid. It was my first job as a teenager, right? Now my kids are a part of it. So it's, you know, we're that close-knit community that know that, you know, you just know, I don't know how to explain that, right? Like, we know about the programs, we advertise the programs to our services, but we also don't do it alone, right? So we rely on each other. So, hey, one agency, they do youth programming for middle school. Great. After our program, let's send them to that program, get them connected with them, you know, for their program. Same for high school. Teachers at the school, so American Indian Magnet, our teachers come from the American Indian Magnet. They teach during the day, and then we recruit them in to be our after schools teachers or supports, or be a part of our summer program as well. And it, you know, gives them a connection to the kids, gives them an extra income, right? Keeps them in community. For the Economic Mobility Hub, there's a lot of great Native American organizations throughout St. Paul and Minneapolis that are doing amazing work, right? To, you know, help participants, to help community, and, you know, just knowing those leaders of those organizations, connecting the dots, and, like, you know, making sure we're not duplicating, because let's be honest here, right? Oftentimes the state, or even, you know, philanthropy, they like to think, oh, well, we serve the American Indian community. We check that box because we fund one organization doing one type of work. And it's like, okay, sure. If you think that's working, it's not, right? So we've had to get really creative in the way we deliver services. We've had to get creative in the way that we fund. How are we going to fund this, right? Because that's another big question. Like, how do you fund all this stuff, right? Like, some of them are governmental contracts with the county, with the state. Some of them are donations from individuals, from congregations. Some of them are, you know, other donations that we apply through foundations, right? So a lot of our work, it's a mixture of funding for us. But again, it's just really kind of building those relationships and building that network. How do we get families for the hub? Because I'll ask that, right? So how do we recruit our families? They're community members we know, right? So they're often community members that have been using our services for years, for generations, and their children could go to the Montessori, they could shop at our food shelf, their kids could be in the youth program, they could attend our diabetes program. We also, the county is a partner in this work, and the Ramsey County is doing a fantastic job at really learning from us. So not trying to be the driver in the seat, and not trying to be like, this is the way you have to do it, right? Because it's clear that the current social service delivery model system isn't working. We really need to undo how that's going and redo it for communities that work, right? So they're really learning beside us. But they have a website that families can self-refer, or if there's a caseworker or a social worker, or, you know, somebody that they work with, they can refer a family into the hub as well. So our goal is to have 50 families that we work with, and we have 34 now. Yes.
Could you talk about your relationship with the Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative and the whole hitting home and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's a couple different relationships with the Suburban Family Collaborative and Heading Home. So We receive resources from them, like we have staff that attend their monthly or bi-weekly meeting. I know our project home director is on the Heading Home Collaborative, so she's a member of that. I believe our executive director is an appointed member of their board, I believe. But we know of their services, but I guess we don't really, we could use them, I guess. I'm not really sure. That would have to be our family coaches that would know where the services we use, but yes.
Well, I'm not sure if they still do it. For a period of time, they had a kind of an online meeting of people and service providers who were sharing information back and forth.
Yes, and if that's the Wednesday morning
Yeah,
meetings that they go to,
yeah.
then yes, our staff are looped in on that and receive those and are part of that circle of network to receive resources that the county provides, like, you know, Heading Home or other organizations, if they have meetings. I know we share a lot through St. Paul Indians in Action. We share a lot through the Metro Urban Indian Directors, right? Like, and so just really tapping in to make sure we know all these where all these resources are for community members. And that one's, I know, Wednesday morning, that's when they meet there. So our families, they can either self-referral, get a referral from a social worker or someone else. We also are piloting 26 families are receiving GBI, guaranteed basic income, for 2 years. So we are a year in on that. So St. Paul did a big pilot on GBI, and then when they reapplied for their second term or their second pilot or their second group, we were like, hey, we want in, but we want in for specifically our community. And so we were fortunate enough to receive a grant through the city of St. Paul, which was through the Kresge Foundation, to fund 25 guaranteed basic incomes. But so St. Paul, theirs is a little different. We put stipulations on ours. So in order to even qualify for the GBI, for our families to even qualify to be even entered into that, we randomized it, is that they had to complete 3 things for us. We needed them to complete all their intake process and paperwork, all their household information. They needed to have their 7th generation goal setting plan figured out, and they had to take a financial literacy course, because those 3 things were important to us. And that's a part of our pillars, right? Our focus areas. So in order to even qualify to be considered for the GBI program, you had to do those 3 things. And there was 26 families, I think out of like 40 at the time, that were ready and that qualified. And so it was like, well, we just have 1 more family. So we were able to reach out to a foundation, and they covered the last person. So we have 26 families that are receiving GBI, and we distribute that the middle of the month, and we do data. So we do evaluation, we do studies, we ask questions, we ask like how you're spending your money, and you know, things like that, and like, you know, is this helping you? And you know, and also some of our families, once they get the GBI, are they still keeping in touch with their family coach? Are they still, right? Because we knew we were going to see some that would just fall off and we wouldn't hear from them. But let me tell you, there's only like 2 of those families that we've lost contact with because of whatever reason. But 24 of them are able to save. They're able to pay their bills on time. They're able to not rely on the food shelf. They were able, one family, him and his family, even his kids were pre-diabetic, and that scared him. So with one of his, he saved up a couple GBI payments and bought some at-home gym equipment, because he's got 5 kids he's raising alone, right? And they do like a family workout routine, and they were able to get out of the pre-diabetes range, right? Like, that's big, right? So it's not them, I'm gonna go buy drugs, or I'm gonna go drink, or I'm gonna, you know, go spend frivolously. And a lot of our families that are part of the hub, when we interviewed them pre-interview for this, was, okay, if you could be financially secure and stable, what is it? What is it that you want? Like, what's a goal for your family? And oftentimes our family couldn't even think out of that crisis mode. Like, what would you do if you had money and savings, your bills were paid, you were stable? What is a goal for you, right? Like a vacation, or I want this. And it was, man, I've never even thought of that. And that's really sad to hear, right? Like, you know, and then it was, oh wait, my daughter really loves to do art. I would get her enrolled in some art classes, or I'd get her, you know, really help strengthen that hobby or that area that she likes to do. And so, you know, that's a part of the goal plan, right? Like, okay, what can we do now to also meet your daughter's dream or your daughter's goal too? So that's our economic mobility hub. This was started in 2023, so we're about a year in. And it's going pretty well, right? We are posting to hire another family coach so we can be at full implementation with 50 families. And you know, the funding for this comes through there. I mean, I fundraise a lot, so I'm gonna tell you. Yes.
We've got about 1 more minute.
Okay.
So
Yeah, should we do questions? Because I'm done now. The hub is all done. So just want to say thank you guys so much. you know, if there's any questions or comments or anything, please let me know. I think I tried to cover it all. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna take an hour. It's not gonna take that long. I'll be quick. And now I just kind of went.
Maybe just one word on how we as a congregation who might be interested in partnering with you, what would be some suggestions?
Yeah, so definitely, and I love this question. So there's lots of ways you can help, right? So you could always do a donation if you want, but that's sometimes, you know, okay. You could do a food drive. We've noticed as we've moved to Little Canada, our food donations from congregations or from even individuals really decreased, right? So, you know, you could mitten drive some congregations do, even if you want to, you know, what area is passionate to you, right? So like, hey, I really want to help out in more this way. Well, maybe is it volunteering at Project Home when they do a weekend kitchen shift, right? Is it maybe volunteering during Project Home's Dignity Shop during the holidays, or, you know, Project Home does this big, wonderful like shop for their families, is where the kids can go in and pick up gifts for their parents, and the parents can go pick up gifts, you know, like, is there ways to volunteer on site within within a program, or external, right? Like, volunteering at a partner site as well, or is it just spreading the word? Sometimes just spreading the word. You've got old clothes that you need to donate that are in season and gently used, bring them to us for our free clothing closet, right? Like, you know, somebody that's moving, and we don't usually take big bulky furniture, but like, hey, dishes, linens, those are like a golden ticket. When they come on our shelves and in our like free clothing closet, they're gone immediately, right? So it could be, you know, just spreading the word, you know, someone that's moving or downsizing, hey, don't bring it to the Goodwill, go bring it over there to DIW, they'll take it, right? So it's a variety of different ways you can get involved and help, right? And helping out, and it could be as easy as, hey, you should really check into this organization, they're really great, right? Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Answer you personally, if you want to donate it to you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Per policy, this has to get turned in, which is totally fine. I get it coded to a fund, I get it coded to the program I coded to. I go look at our budgets and figure out which one I want to go. Well, thank you guys so much. And Carol has my contact information if you guys have any follow-up questions or any, you know, want to come see our food shelf, volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers to take people shopping, or just, you know, help stock the food shelf. So great. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.